I'm not going to lie to y'all. Sif ain't looking good for this Bulls team. And I'm not just even talking about on the basketball court. Of course, Jaden Ivey's out 2 weeks. Rob Dillingham barely played with Anfernee Simons and Jaden Ivey out at points in this game. Zack Collins is done for the season. Listen, not only has the trade deadline passed, and we've already made it past that, as I said on yesterday's episode, even the return back at that trade deadline is starting to show, some serious concerns there. But we're going to discuss it all and more on today's Chicago Bulls Central. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And yeah, things aren't looking good. Yesterday's episode, I talked about how the Chicago Bulls can walk away from their trade deadline moves with nothing to show as far as a future asset. Other than cap flexibility and, of course, the draft position that they're focusing on. But that may be all that we walk away from this trade after the trade deadline, looking at what we really acquired to the team. Let's just put it in perspective, right? It's not looking good for Jaden Ivey or Rob Dillingham. Jaden Ivey, after yesterday's comments from Billy Donovan, the day before's comments from Billy Donovan, in which he talked about Jaden just not moving like himself out there, J.I. saying the old J.I. is dead, and somebody was like, he's talking about spiritually. He's like, no, he was talking about basketball. The question was about basketball on the court. He's not about spiritually as much as you may want to make it about that so you can think that he's not seriously hurt out there. The man is hurt. And that was evident yesterday when, before the game, the Chicago Bulls announced that Jaden Ivey was going to be out for at least 2 weeks with knee soreness. Now, I want to be clear here. This is still kind of the typical timeline. He didn't return till November. If you look at any Bulls player that's had significant a knee injury, they have a period of time where they have knee soreness and have to sit down for a little bit of time. It happened with Zach LaVine. It happens, right? But this is just goes to highlight that this evaluation time that we were hoping was going to happen for Jaden Ivey this year, a little bit to see him next to Josh Giddey, it's really not going to be that. The Bulls going to have to make a decision on restricted free agency without seeing very much of Jaden Ivey at all. Now, the benefit of his numbers weren't terrible when he's been on the court for the Bulls. It's just that discomfort, and maybe that discomfort in the knee, the soreness is why, he was looking as timid as what he was. Like I pointed out many times, not taking players off the dribble. When he has the first step on players, not really going to the trying to get to the rim like he used to. Very timid on that leg. But I think it's good. This is a good sign as far as at least it's something where it's sore. They're going to sit him down for a little bit of time. He's going to miss at least 7 games with being out 2 weeks, so at least 7 games. The first of that being yesterday. And we'll see when we get Jaden Ivey back on the court. But this is a more long-term question for Jaden Ivey is that, if the Bulls do not tender him a player option, or not a player option, an offer sheet, why I had so much time saying that. If they don't give him an offer sheet in regards to that one, and that it's going to be a problem. We'll see if they do that for him. I think he may still get a restricted free agent offer sheet just to lock him in, and then, like I said, they can always rescind that if they need to do that as well. If they need to create a little bit more cap space, get his cap hold off there. So we'll see what happens with Jaden Ivey, but this is, of course, not a good update for people that were already concerned about what was going on with Jaden Ivey. Then you had Rob Dillingham, who already going into a game with no Jaden Ivey. In the last game, I think he played, 10 minutes? In the game last night, he plays 8 minutes. That's with no Jaden Ivey, and Anfernee Simons goes down in this game as well. He ended up only playing 13 minutes in this game. So it's not like the opportunity wasn't there for Rob Dillingham to play. I keep telling you guys, I gave Dillingham credit. He showed a little bit more flash, especially as a passer, than I thought. And I said, hey, maybe I'm going to end up wrong on Rob Dillingham. But this really does not scream confidence or even an interest in really developing him when he only plays 8 minutes. We had some other guys. And listen, you were getting blown out the majority of this game. You ended up losing by 16. That was a time where you could have played Rob Dillingham regardless. You played Josh Giddey 27 minutes. He had a really solid game scoring-wise, 27 going 10 to 16 from the field. But that was an opportunity for you to play Rob Dillingham. Keep in mind, Dillingham's the only player that we got back at the trade deadline that has a contract that's past this season for sure. And the Bulls just already seem like the Rob Dillingham experiment may be over with. Billy Donovan talked about it after the game, saying they thought that they were going to get more minutes for Rob Dillingham, but with Trey and Josh Giddey back and how they were playing. But, like, to me, you don't, as the head coach, you don't think you're going to get somebody minutes. Like, if they were really a part of the rotation, you don't think that, right? To me, that says that they're not part of the rotation, and you just thought, hey, because of how this game may go, we may have a little bit more opportunity for Rob Dillingham, but that didn't happen. With that said, Zack Collins also, we got to officially announce that he's going to undergo toe surgery, which is going to end his season. He is done for this year. This season started off really rough for Zack Collins. He wasn't there healthy at the start of the season. He briefly came back for the Chicago Bulls and then immediately basically went back out. And now we've done these trades and things. So, unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And Zack Collins very well may have played his last game in a Bulls uniform. He may not come back this offseason. And that may be because the Bulls go a different direction with center. I'm not saying he'll come back as the starter. I'm just saying if they do, maybe they bring him back as a backup, but that may be gone depending on what they do. He may decide to go to a more winning organization and system, but we end up getting 10 games out of Zack Collins. And really, when you look at it, after trading for Zack Collins, we really only got 38 games of Zack Collins as a Chicago Bull. 28 last year, 10 this year. That's it. 38 games of Zack Collins as a Chicago Bull. And while he's a solid backup center, make no doubt about it, and he had some really good moments here in Chicago, I think this goes back to show, like, you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen in this league. And so it's unfortunate that that's the amount of time that we got Zack Collins for. For what it's worth, I think he played more good than bad when he's here, but very well we could have saw that last game. Anfernee Simons goes out of this game as well with a wrist injury. Now, what I want to point out about this is that he only played 13 minutes, but look to see if the Bulls use this. This is again, further the tanking of the Bulls, what the Bulls are doing. Before, listen, a lot of people are like, they waited too late to tank. They're not going to catch up with Brooklyn. No, duh. This isn't about catching up with Brooklyn. This is about making sure you just increase your draft picks as much as possible. But, watch what the Bulls do here with Anfernee Simons. If they hold him out multiple games, it just tells you exactly what we already know already, because there's still some Bulls fans that are holding out hope that this Bulls team isn't actually tanking the rest of this way. They're tanking. It is what it is. It's done there. But this just goes back to what I said yesterday, and I think all this highlights it, is that we could very well walk away from the trade deadline moves and have literally no long-term piece. The only long-term things that we walked away with was the second-round picks and, of course, cap flexibility. But even then, we would have had the same cap flexibility. All you had to do was let everybody walk. So we really didn't gain much unless Rob Dillingham and our Jaden Ivey end up sticking around and actually turn into something. That's really what it is. Now, don't get me wrong. The draft position that the Bulls get in, we'll get more on that in a second, right? That's a great flexibility that you're giving yourself. But I'm talking about as far as kind of known commodities. We don't have anything. Rob Dillingham already looks like he may fall out of the rotation for the Bulls after not only being in it because we had some major injuries at the guard. Jaden Ivey's looking like a player that the Bulls may have to seriously consider. Do they even want to extend him that offer sheet, I should say, because who knows what's going to happen with his knee. And I think that, if this knee thing ends up turning into something, they're going to, whether they announce it or not, he's going to go under. They're going to look at the knee. I'm not saying under the knife, but they're going to go look at that knee, make sure nothing else is going on with it. But if there's something and something gets announced as well as they got to get another scope or something, the Bulls may have to seriously consider whether they're even going to give him that offer sheet. And we'll see if they do that, right? So qualifying offer, that's the word I'm looking for. If they give him the qualifying offer. So, that's what it comes down to with that. And we could very well, Colin Sexton could walk. Anfernee Simons could walk. Nick Richards, Yabusele, they could walk, right? Leonard Miller got assigned to the Windy City Bulls, right? So it goes back to what I was talking about yesterday. And while I will give them some acknowledgement for the fact of just opening up the flexibility that we have, because that's something that a lot of teams would great. Creating flexibility is amazing. And that is something that every team wants in the offseason, right? And if we had a different GM, a different guy running the show, because Artūras is the president, if we had a different person running the show, I would feel a little bit more confident about it. But let's just be clear here. Even looking at us increasing our draft position, which is clearly what the Bulls are focused on now, I don't have complete faith in AK and his ability to draft. Midas Buzelis is a solid draft pick. I think Noah Essingay is going to be a really solid draft pick, even for the people that whine every time Derek Queen does anything good. I think Noah Essingay still has a chance to be a better two-way player, maybe a better overall player than Derek Queen. I think that, right? But, we don't know that for sure. Modest is the closest thing that we have to a draft pick that has shown that he's going to be something at least, right? But we don't know that for sure. I think AK's done better with Noah and Modest. We'll see if he continues that. But I don't even have to, even those 2 draft picks don't offer me the most faith. It doesn't give me the most faith possible in us even drafting. Even if we do end up with a top 5 pick, I just don't know if I still trust AK to get the right guy at that pick and then develop that guy and put him in the right situation. Because again, we don't have the coach that I trust to get that development done, right? So this is a Bulls team that has struggled in drafts, but it's asking us to have faith in what they're going to do with the draft of 2026, so much so that they have basically given up on wins the rest of this way to focus on getting the best draft position. You could have 2 first-round picks if Portland ends up going over as well as they come out of that play-in tournament. That could be something that also helps the Chicago Bulls. Great. But you can try to sell me on the draft all you want. The fact is, you haven't had the consistency in the draft for me to have blind faith in that. Then let's talk about the cap space situation, right? AK has shown an ability to go out there and get some guys that you didn't expect. DeMar DeRozan didn't expect, even if you don't want to give him Alex Caruso, who left the championship team, came to the Chicago Bulls. Lonzo Ball was a good signing for the player you were trying to bring in, but the injuries ended up making that trash. I think going out there and getting Andre Drummond for what we got him for that price was a pretty good price tag on him as well. Solid, right? But AK hasn't had the free agencies that you look back on and be like, he really just nailed this all the way home. Either it feels like initially it's a good signing, which like Jalen Smith was a good signing for the Chicago Bulls. Look at how he has played here when he's actually been trusted to do so. That was a good signing by the Bulls. But he hasn't had that home run where you feel just overly confident about it. I guess the closest thing to that would have been DeMar DeRozan. But again, it wasn't DeMar as a player that was a negative. It was the team that we had there and just the function of it. So even if you want to give him that, but don't have tremendous flexibility, confidence in that. Then even furthermore in free agency, you're basically betting more on restricted free agency, which do players want to come to a team that looks like they're in complete turmoil like the Chicago Bulls? That's already a tough sell. On top of that, then you have the option of any team that you give an offer sheet for a restricted free agent, they can match that. So it's not even for sure that it's still chance in that. You're still asking us to take a big shot on chance and believing this front office is going to do the right thing. And that's just where a lot of Bulls fans, that just is pushing the line 2 more. Shout out to the flexibility and the possibilities that the Bulls have opened up this offseason. But they got to turn that into something. Because right as it stands right now, you did a lot of nothing at the trade deadline that people have faith in. And we got to see how we're going to come out of that. But it is Sunday. That means it is Mailbag Day. Let's get into these voicemails, y'all. We got 4 voicemails and 1 text message to get into today. This first voicemail, this one's from Brian Washington.
Yo, what up, Hayes? It's your boy Brian from the West Side. Question, man. Do you think it makes sense to because Josh Giddey ain't 100% healthy. Do you think it makes sense to even play him? I will sit him for the rest of this season. Because half these guys on the team is not going to be here next year. So I would just stick Josh Giddey, you know what I'm saying, instead of risking a chance of him getting hurt bad, you know what I'm saying, or re-injuring himself. So I would sit him and let these guys go on battle it out and they pick and choose who going to be here next year, who ain't. But I wouldn't even risk Giddey. I'll leave Modest out there, you know what I'm saying, let him just go and play because he's still learning. But Giddey, I will sit Giddey for the rest of the season. It's pointless playing him right now. Let those young guys, those new players go and battle it out. You know what I'm saying? Because the Bulls made a bunch of dumbass moves. I don't understand where they're going. The team is clearly not playing to win right now. And Billy Donovan he definitely ain't coaching to win games right now. And they don't have the personnel, you know what I'm saying, that Josh Giddey once had some weeks ago, you know. So, of course, his game ain't going to be the same right off top. You know, he playing with a bunch of new players, but I don't think he even needs to play with them right now. Sit them, let them get healthy and stronger, get them ready for next year. Just sit them on down, man, because I hate to see him get re-injured in a meaningless-ass season. You know what I'm saying? There's no point of playing him right now. So I'll sit him. But what you think about that, man? All right, have a good day.
No, I'm not sitting him personally, and that's just me personally, because I still want him to play with Modest. I still want those guys to build up that chemistry. I still want to see these guys that we have on this team play off Josh Giddey in case there is a chance that we can keep or we want to keep any of these guys. And I think overall, as long as Josh Giddey, he's going to want to play too. Unless Josh Giddey suffers something else with that hamstring, another sprain or something, you let him play. You want him to play. You need him to play. He needs to go out there and play. And that's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying you need to play him 30, 32 minutes a night. So you can have him on a minutes restriction the rest of the season. But I want Josh Giddey out there. I understand where you're coming from, but I still want Josh Giddey out there playing. That's just my personal opinion. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? It's Shay. Look, man, after now what you just said about us not tanking until after this season and the NBA making a big effort and for teams not to tank, I'm even more a little bit annoyed about the trades that we made due to the fact that you see a lot of teams like Indiana bottoming out. You don't see them trading away Pascal Siakam. You actually see them getting better for next year for when Tyrese Halliburton comes back. And seeing this now, we're not going to be tanking next year. You almost feel like, man, what's the point? And hearing all this stuff about Jaden Ivey and him being unsure and the Bulls being unsure about him, and you don't know about Anfernee Simons, like you just sit back and think, man, okay, you understand bottoming out, maybe, but like we still had the money to retain both Kobe White and Io, and the fact that we did it, and we probably gonna have new guys here. It kind of makes you a little bit irritated and frustrated. Okay, granted, I know we wanted to take a couple steps back, but there's ways of taking steps back than just trading away everybody, especially knowing that we kept Trey Jones and Jalen Smith. And it's just like, it gets even more irritating just sitting back here thinking about it, especially knowing that we're looking to so-called build around Josh Giddey and Modest. I don't know, man. Maybe, hopefully AK has a plan, but it's just so annoying because we could have had minor things to fix to at least make us a consistent playoff team. Like, you know what I'm saying? If we would have gotten Nick Richardson, Yabusele, and just had to kept Kobe White and Io. But hey, it is what it is. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
The Bulls better use this space to do something. And that's just what I'm going to leave it at. They better use this space. They better use this opportunity. They better use this to do something this offseason to improve this team to where we're looking at it and saying, all right, bet. We see what you did there. We can't, like, there's something has to be done in that case. And that's what I'm going to leave him at. Because, yeah, as I said earlier on yesterday's episode, I said earlier today, we could very well look at this trade deadline and think the only thing we really got back is better draft position and a few second-round picks because none of these players could stick around. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you use that flexibility to fill out a roster and bring some of those guys and bring guys in better, guys that are just going to make the team overall better. Cool, if that's what you end up doing. But if not, some problems in that. And I'll just leave that at that, Shay. But great voicemail there. All right, let's get into this mailbag question that we got. This one's from Guy, who leave this text message. Is this: would you consider trading the 2026 first and P. Will as a package? If so, who do you think would be a good target in that type of deal? I'm Bull supporter from back in the MJ and D Rose days. Laker in my squad, though. Actually, I started following the team again because of P. Will, believe it or not. Started watching your content after he was drafted there. Finally subscribed after your AK crash out. I agree. AK and Donovan need to go. Shouldn't be allowed to touch this next iteration of the Bulls. Let me focus on your question here. Would I consider trading the 2026 first and P. Will as a package? No, only because P. Will brings the value down of anything. Meaning that if you're attaching P. Will to something, your values, what you're getting back, the value goes down on that, in my opinion. Now, if you need the salary matching, then they're just looking at it that, maybe. But I still think with 3 years possibly left on P. Will's deal, that last year being a player option, man, that's negative value. And that's the downside of what this P. Will contract did to us. The length of it made it bad. You know, his performance made it bad. It's just a bad overall contract. And hey, it sucks. It sucks. But we'll see what the Bulls do this offseason, but I don't think packaging P. Will would increase the value. I think that would lessen the value. And as far as a play, I wouldn't be targeting a player with that. If the Bulls trade their first-round pick this season, it's to move up in this draft and to get probably into that top four. Any of those top four players I take here because we need the talent. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one is from Corn.
What's the word, King Drip? This your brother Corn, man. Let's get right into this shit. So, we lost to the Pistons. So we already know what time it is. This team is bad. They're fucked up. So since AK and Mark Eversley is thinking about the future, let's not think about the future right now. Because that, with this team assembled, that's basically what they're thinking of. And I'm hearing everybody saying AJ to draft, right? This might be controversial, but I feel like the one I want to draft, even if we have a number 1, number 2 pick, is Darren Peterson. You know how I fuck up names sometimes. So, apologies. Darren Peterson. That name kind of come with controversy, right? Especially with they're speaking on him at ESPN about him calling his number and all this shit, right? People don't know, but I am a Kansas Jayhawks fan, right? That's why when people ask me who's my favorite Bull, I always say Captain Kirk, because it comes with the bias of Captain Kirk being a Kansas Jayhawk, just to know y'all history, right? Something about him. I think he's just playing the long game when it comes to college. I'm not even want to talk about his scoring ability. His scoring ability is on the next level. But the thing that gets me when I see him is his defense. The steals, the blocks, the effort, the ultimate two-way player, per se. This is just me, man. Correct me if I'm wrong with this or thinking this way to say, if I had the number 1, number 2, number 3 pick, if I could pick any player in the draft, it would be Darren Peterson. Straight up, straight down. Because he's not just a leader scoring, y'all. He's not just a leading scorer. But I'm going to leave it there, King Drip. Tell me what you think about it. I know we don't talk about draft and shit, but we might as well. Because that's what Acme thinking of right now. You see this bullshit that they're giving us. So let's think about the future.
My nigga, you can't say somebody's your number 1 and then get their name wrong. Shout out to my brother Corn on that one. But here's the thing. Peterson is mocked to go number 1 by most outlets. So most people agree with you. They'll take Darren Peterson number 1. Make no mistake about that. Me personally, I'm taking AJ Dybantsa. I'm taking him first. I think the kid has the it factor. I think he has the leadership qualities that Peterson lacks both on and off the court. I also think that if I had to bet on either one of those guys turning into a plus defender, I'd bet on AJ to get that done. I think he shows the effort. I think he has the desire. And I think when he gets into the NBA, he's going to be one of those players that slowly but surely takes pride in trying to shut down a team's best player no matter what level of defender he turns into. I think he's always going to be an active defender, and I trust him to be the better defender overall. I'm going AJ. That's just the player that I'll go to. I think AJ is one of the best prospects in this draft, and probably he'd be one of the best in the last 5 drafts as well in a lot of those drafts. So I'm taking AJ. I think AJ has everything that I look for in a player: the edge, the drive, the leadership possibilities. That's why I take AJ. I'm not knocking you because, like I said, most outlets and professionals agree with you. They take Darren Peterson. That's why he's mocked to go number 1. But I take AJ personally. But all right, let's get into this last voicemail, man. This one's from Doug.
Hey, Hayes, this is Doug. Tanking sucks, and the Bulls tanking the rest of this season just reminds me why I don't like it. It's so hard to watch as a fan. But I think last night when I couldn't sleep, I figured out what the NBA should do to fix tanking and the draft. And I wanted to run it past you and see what your thoughts were. First, you get all teams go in a lottery. So you have 30 lottery balls. So each team, each pick is randomly selected. But you separate them into 4 groups. So Group A would get picks 1 through 6. They would be 6 of the bottom 10 teams. So all the teams would go in that group that didn't make the play-in. And 6 of those would get randomly selected for the first 6 picks. Group B would be picks 7 through 12. And they would be 6 out of the 8 play-in teams. So you would reward teams that or trying to be competitive, but just maybe wasn't good enough to actually make the play-in on their own or playoffs on their own. Group C would get picks 13 through 18, and that would be the other 4 teams from Group A and the other 2 teams from Group B. They would get the picks 13 through 18. So that would show there's no guarantee that even finishing outside of the play-in gets you a top draft pick. So there's no use in tanking, and you actually have a better reason to be competitive. Group D would then be picks 19 through 30, which obviously would be the top 6 picks or the top 6 teams, in each conference. And any team that the NBA found that was tanking, for example, like the Utah Jazz this year, would automatically go into Group D and get one of the bottom picks then in the first round. I also think it'd be a cool idea if they did that live on draft day, pick by pick. So, for example, when the draft was getting ready to start, they pick the first lottery ball, they find out which team gets the first pick, and then that team gets 2 minutes to make their selection. After they take their pictures and everything, they pick the second lottery ball, and they find out who gets the second pick, and so on and so forth. I just think that would make the draft better to watch, and people would watch it all the way through then just to see who gets what pick. But let me know what you think. Just curious on it. If you like it, move it up the ladder. If you don't like it, go easy on your response, please. Talk to you later.
Interesting idea. I just don't think the NBA ever does something that convoluted. And I say that because of this. I don't think the NBA wants a tiered system or something like that. They're not looking to overly change the lottery. They're looking to change tanking. And so I think that's a thing. And even some of their options I don't like. And again, I'm not saying that it's on you or it's a bad idea. But I get where you're coming at with the idea. I just don't think that's anything the NBA actually adapts. But I can't wait to see what they do about tanking. I can't see what they wait to do because there's going to be a lot of people that either complain or love it. So, we'll see. But that's going to do it for today's episode, y'all. I appreciate you guys for sticking it out with me on a Sunday. It is another game day for the Chicago Bulls as well. But flexibility is cool. Draft picks are cool. Cap space is nice. All this stuff is good. But eventually, it does have to turn into something real. And right now, the Chicago Bulls front office is done of excuses. They have to turn this into something real. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think this reset is going to be worth it? Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. But that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.